for, notice that title, not Chief Executive Officer, of the Del Sol Group. With over 20 years of community organizing experience, Alma is highly sought for counsel on community outreach and political organizing. Alma's current clients include school districts, charter school organizations, community organizations, and philanthropic organizations who seek counsel on community engagement issues and strategies. Alma was Vice President of External and Government Affairs for Green Dot Public Schools and was a program officer at First 5 LA. She also helped community residents with their organizing efforts after the Bell corruption scandal, helping establish Justice for Bell, a grassroots organization of community residents who are organizing for ethical leadership, civic participation, and transparent government. Alma is a graduate of Occidental College and pursued her master's degree in urban planning at UCLA. Alma is a Hope Leadership Institute graduate from the class of 2002. Thank you, Alma, for coming and sharing.
Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be here talking about a community that I care so much about. Southeast LA is where I grew up. I was born and reared in Huntington Park. For those of you who don't know the region, it's a very low-income, mostly Latino community. Unlike, unfortunately, a lot of communities in Southeast LA, obviously, has been part of the corruption. Supervisor Molina talked about this. I mean, Southgate, Huntington Park, all of the cities, people talk about what's happening in those Latino communities, what the hell is wrong with those leaders, and of course there's always, I remember when the Bell scandal first broke, watching Channel 11 and hearing Steve Edwards on Fox 11 saying, what's going on in that region? It's another, another city, and he rattled off the cities I just mentioned, and I thought it was so interesting that, even the newscaster had taken note of those communities. And because I was born and reared in those communities, I know that that's not a reflection of who the residents are. And I've been very blessed in my life. I grew up there and have been able to access opportunities that most Latinas, Chicanas never get access to. And I take that responsibility very seriously, and I think many of you who are here probably share that experience, right? First college graduate in our families, right? First person maybe to vote, first person who ever met an elected official. These are things that I have really internalized into my core and believe that I have a responsibility to give back both to my neighbors and also to people who live in those communities that I no longer live in. So I was asked to attend a meeting with Nestor Valencia, who is the man that Nora referred to. He was the one who was there asking all the hard questions, as we say in the neighborhood, putting everybody on blast, right? Asking, really difficult questions, and he was, harassed. And I'm talking about this entire body of people. They got him fired from his job. Stuff that you could never even imagine, the kind of corruption that happened in that community against this man and his family. And so I first met with him and was just like shocked and hurt because I knew some of the people who were involved, and I just couldn't believe that this had happened. And I just couldn't believe that something like this could happen in the US, right? I think that's like an internationally known case now, right? It's like, this could happen potentially in Mexico with all the corruption that people expect there, but not necessarily in the US, and certainly not at the level and extreme that everybody was in on it. And the special interest that both the supervisor and Nora talked about, I'm very clear, the police officers were totally engaged with this. Right? Let's not get it twisted. The cops were totally part of it. And so part of the lessons learned for me and in this work was really to try to bring both my experience as an organizer, my experience as a product of this community, to come back and help shape some of the changes, some of the actions to create progressive change in the community. I was very fortunate to be asked to participate. There was a group of 5 of us who grew up in those neighborhoods. I was the only woman. We would meet, and I'm not afraid to admit now, at midnight sometimes. I was personally very afraid for my own safety because I had had previous experiences where I did not feel safe. I would oftentimes not sleep very well because I was seriously concerned that some of these people would find out where I lived or hurt my family. So it was a very scary time, and I think that part of what we are learning now is that we have to invest in leadership. And it can't just be those of us who have had the good fortune of graduating from college, because the vast majority of us have not graduated from college. So we have to invest in those people who live in our communities, who make up our families. I'm the only college grad in my family. So that means that unless we organize and unless we teach people who have not gone to college about civic engagement, about what clean government looks like, breaking down everything from local government to the relationships between the state assembly, the LA County, the LA City. We have a responsibility as activists and as products of our communities to help our community members understand that. And I remember one of the first meetings was at my office in downtown, and it was a group of about 20 residents. They had all come. We were all afraid at that time, too. Nora was in the meeting, and I remember that everybody had, piled into different cars and taken different routes because we thought we were being followed, right? And it was such a scary time because you don't even know who's really in on it at that point, right? I mean, now we have the, hindsight is 20/20. We could see who was involved, but at that time, in the middle of it, we didn't know. And I think that was a huge turning point for those residents who came. We sat down, we put up these, what were they called, the big Post-it boards, and, I kind of helped people understand the different relationships, the dynamics, things that I had perceived. Everybody had different input, and together we learned from each other. And that was part of the legacy that I think that we have to remember from this experience, is that all residents and all community members have something to learn from one another. And just because you are college educated or have, a Princeton degree or have a degree from Occidental, that doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, because we all bleed the same. And it's very important that we keep ourselves in check in terms of our own humility in teaching people and learning from them. And I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do. Together we started Justice for Bell, which did initiate a group of, and is supporting a group of candidates. And so part of what we will be doing post the election, which is on Tuesday, is assessing where we go next as a community and as a group of residents. This group is about 80 people large now. They are very active, and we're talking about people like my mom, Spanish-speaking women. I don't know how many of you have heard of Ozomatli, the band, yeah? Okay, so the bass player, his name is Yuli Bella, and Yuli's mom is really one of the most pivotal characters, if you will, in this experience. She was 10 years ago, right, at the door every day saying something is wrong, and she would call for help and nobody would respond to her at different levels, and people were not engaged, and it was a very hard thing to see her basically also being harassed. And recently we had a fundraiser when he came to speak, and it was very interesting because, as products of Southeast LA, we're not East LA, right? Most of us, have connections. My mom grew up in East LA, and I, was in East LA often, but I didn't grow up in East LA, so I didn't have that whole Chicana East LA experience. But we have this whole plethora of other communities in LA that look like East LA, right? And throughout California that look like East LA. And part of the issue that we have to internalize and actually take action on is how we begin to engage